I'm Hillary. I'm a homeschooling mom, and I've been homeschooling since 2006. When I started homeschooling my kids, I used A Beka for everything, but I've branched out since then to use other curriculum. So today I thought I would go through the Beka's history curriculum with you. I have been homeschooling my daughter, who is now a junior in high school. She's my oldest, and I've gone through A Beka history with her all the way through, except for this year. And also we did a book that's suggested for 12th grade. We did that one early. So I've done 2 of the high school books as well. So I thought what I'd do is I would take the books one by one and show you what I liked about them, the pros and the cons, and just give you kind of an overview so that you would know if it would be a fit for your family. So I did the kindergarten one time, the community helpers book. I borrowed it from somebody, so I don't have it. I only did it with one child. It was okay. I don't know, it was okay. But I do have I have the 2nd grade book. My youngest child is a 3rd grader right now. So whenever he gets done with a grade, I sell whatever he doesn't need anymore. So I do have a 2nd grade book though, and the 1st and 2nd grade books are very similar to each other as far as the way that they're set up. So this is the 2nd grade book, A Beka, and it's set up really easy. It's simple. The parent reads it to the child, and there's not a ton of words, and it doesn't get super in-depth. I really liked it. I thought it was fun and easy and enjoyable. It was a good way for my child and I to dig in together, spend some time together, and learning to love history. The 1st grade one, I believe, is Our World. So you learn about the different countries. You just touch on them. It's just kind of an introduction to the fact that there's a big world out there. So I really liked these. They were fun and enjoyable for us. Next came 3rd grade. And 3rd grade has a similar, here I'll show you. This is the 3rd grade child's textbook. And it has a similar layout to the 2nd grade one. With smaller chapters and giving a nice overview of the American history. This one actually talks about the people, different people in the U.S. So it has Christopher Columbus, John Smith, Pocahontas, Daniel Boone, Robert E. Lee, Abraham Lincoln, Clara Barton, George Washington Carver, Laura Ingalls Wilder. It's got, you can see that, it's got a nice layout of the different people of our history. So it's laid out that way, but this is the first time that you're going to see the numerous books that they have. That is one thing I don't like about A Beka. Their science, their health, their history, language is like that as well. So most of A Beka is like that they have a number of books to just one subject. So what you get for 3rd grade, I think I have all the books here. You've got the child's textbook. You've got the child's tests and quizzes. You've got the key to the test and quizzes. They also add the map study in 3rd grade. There's one for the child. And then there's the map study key. And then they also have an answer key to the text questions in the textbook. This thing is so small, I don't see why they couldn't have added that into the textbook. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books just for your history 3rd grade. That is where I started not liking A Beka as much, because it was getting a little bit overwhelming to know when it's like, okay, I'm reading in this textbook, and now when do I do a quiz, or when do I do a test, and oh man, did I miss a quiz? And so that was a little frustrating. They do have, actually, I don't think it starts until 4th or 5th grade. We'll get to that. But they do have a teacher's curriculum book where you can see where all of that lines up together, and that's very helpful. But I either don't own it for 3rd grade, or they don't even have one for 3rd grade. I'm not sure which, but I don't have one. So that was third grade. I do like their map study. Let me pull out the child's one for you. Their map study, this is just an introduction to maps. It's not even memorizing like your state or cities or anything like that. It does give them a map of the world. This is the third grade. Again, my son is in third grade, and we are going to start this next semester. So this is his that he hasn't even looked at yet. And then it just really introduces them to like the map key, what a compass is, and then it'll have the questions will be according to where they're at, like which street is close to the forest and crosses the river. And then they have to look and figure it out. So it's just having them kind of get inside a map, figure out what's going on, and know how to go from there. I think this is very useful, a good life lesson. People should know how to read maps, even though we do have GPS these days. I still want my kids to know how to read a map. So those were good and helpful. So let's see here. So I liked the third grade one. I liked most of these. I really did. For us, our season has just changed. Like when I started homeschooling, it was just the one for 4 years before the other one got into school. And it started out fine to use A Beka for just the one. And then when I added the other one, it wasn't that bad to have two of them. But then I got 3, and then I've got 4, and it became a little bit more complicated, especially when you throw on the fact that all 4 of my kids have dyslexia, and the best way for them to learn is for me to read things to them. So I was trying to read to them out loud. So I'm reading to my freshman in high school, and I'm reading to her 4th grade brother, and I'm reading to her 2nd grade sister. And it was just too much for me because I was reading history and science and health, and too much for this mama. So I'm really learning that I need to couple some of the kids together for some of those subjects when I can. That's just our season of life. It's what's fitting well with our family. My oldest daughter, she's doing well enough in reading that she can read it on her own sometimes, but it depends on what she's learning. If she will definitely get more from hearing it than from reading it. So yeah, it just works best for us to start moving away from A Beka, but I really do like their curriculum. I think it's a good curriculum. It just might not be a fit for your family. That's a good thing to realize with homeschooling. Seasons change, and that's okay. If you use one thing for several years and then you have to change to something else, that's okay. Be flexible and just go with what is going to be working for your child at the time. Okay, so let's move up. We have 4th grade here. This is a good introduction to the first in-depth look at U.S. history, but I'll warn you, this is also where it starts to get a little dry. So A Beka does get dry. They get pretty in-depth about certain things, and if you're not interested in those things, it gets pretty boring. Even if you are interested, I love history, especially American history, but sometimes I thought it got dry. So, and again, they do have all those books with this one too. I just didn't pull them all out. So that's 4th grade. 5th grade is Old World History and Geography. So it's talking about the other half of the hemisphere with China and Africa and Europe. So that's what this one is. This is the first time that I have a teacher book that coordinates all of the geography and the quizzes and the tests and the maps and making sure that you're doing them all at the same time. So that was very handy to have. Otherwise, I felt like I couldn't keep my head above water. One thing I do like about this 5th grade book is that it talks about Africa. Their other books don't cover Africa as much as this one does, so if you get to the 5th grade book, be sure to cover that one. Another thing I did, because I had a hard time always covering all of the chapters that they did within our school time, sometimes I had to cut out chapters that I didn't think were super necessary or that would really apply to us or that we were really interested in. Sometimes I just would pick and choose. I cut out Africa one time, and now I'm not going to do that ever again, because this is the only book where they really cover Africa. So it does cover a lot on Europe. It talks some about Asia. But most of this, half of this book, I would say, is talking about Europe and where the origins of where America was founded came from. So that's 5th grade. Then you have 6th grade. The first parts of this book, this is a very well-loved book. That's all right. Still has 2 kids to go through. We'll be good if I stay with them. Okay, so the first parts, chapters 1 through 7, is on geography. And then chapter 8 starts the history of the United States. So if you just want to get to history, you could always start at chapter 8 and then put the geography on the tail end of it if you prefer to do it that way. You also learn about Mexico, Central and South America in this book. 7th grade. Okay, so here's the 7th grade kids textbook. They get bigger and bigger each year. This is the first time the teacher gets a textbook too. So what happens is, okay, so they finally gave the teacher a textbook, and they put what's in here to coordinate your test, your maps, your quizzes. They put that also in the back of the textbook. So you have a page. Let's take this page, for example. You have this page, and you have little numbers on the side, and that's going to be that's going to give you the helps for the answers at the end of each section. At the end of each section, you've got the comprehension questions, and then you've got the little numbers here, so it says 8. So that's going to be where you're going to find the answer to question number 8, if that makes sense. And then at the back of this one, then you have your scope and sequence of the chapters of the books and how it's supposed to go. And then you have the lesson plans that will tell you how to line up all the different books that you have. And so that's in the back of the book. This is kind of nice and handy because once they get to 7th grade, their ability of reading, as long as they're not dyslexic, should be that they can read just fine. But once in a while, you're going to want to check up on them. So maybe like every 2 days, they read it on their own and do the comprehension questions. But then every 3rd day, you sit down and read it with them. It's nice to be able to each have a book so that you can read together from this. I liked when the teacher actually got her own textbook. So that's 8th grade. No, I'm sorry, that was 7th grade. That was 7th grade. It is similar to 5th grade. It covers more on the European wars than 5th grade did, which is history. I personally found that extremely boring, but some people might like the wars. I know they have whole subjects, whole classes just on some of the European wars. They have their place in history, so there it is. It's in the 7th grade A Beka book if you want to learn more about it. Next we have our 8th grade, and 8th grade has this cool little book. It's like a civics book. It's a civics activity book, National, State, and Local Studies. This was kind of a fun book. I really liked it. I don't allow my kids to write in any of the consumables if their brothers or sisters are going to be using it. So my daughter had to get a notebook paper, and she just wrote on the paper instead. But because it talks about, okay, so I like government. I like American government. I like to teach the kids how government works. I want to raise voters. However they vote, they still need to vote. And so I wanted to give them an idea of how that worked. And I was kind of disappointed that they didn't get to that very quickly in A Beka. They did get to it here, like how a bill becomes a law. Then they've got the amendments here. I wouldn't say that I like politics the way the politics are today, but I do like the way learning how the government runs and how it's supposed to function anyway. And so I want to teach my kids about that. And like I said, I was bummed they didn't get to it earlier. So this is 8th grade. This is the first time they kind of get a look at it when they're doing the A Beka curriculum. That's why I did 12th grade with my daughter early, because it's American government, and so I wanted her to learn that early. So then there also talk about my state, and you get your just the history, the United States Congress, the government. They fill in all these things. My family history. It's really cool. I like how they did that. And then in the back they have all the states with their symbols, their geography, their state bird and tree and song and all that kind of stuff in here. It's a very interesting book. I really liked it. I did forget to mention, too, that in 4th grade, they do have something kind of similar to this. It's just learning about my state. It's a my state book. And then they also learn there about their state flower, their state tree, who's your state governor right now, what's your state capital right now, and some of the state history, and also your local government, your city, who's the governor of your state, who's the mayor of your city, all that kind of stuff. I really liked the state things that they did as well. And you can do, if you have multiple children, you can do that all together at one time, and then when your following children get to it, you could have them do a state that they like, or a state that they want to move to sometime, or something like that. So that was the 8th grade little civics book. That's just kind of a bonus book. This is the actual America Land That I Love. This is the 8th grade history textbook for the kids. And again, teacher gets her own book. Love that. Love that. So same kind of idea here that they did in the previous grade. I really enjoyed it. Again, I love American history, so this was the book for me. This was a good one. I like this one. 9th grade. So we did the 9th grade one. That is world geography. I really liked this one. This one they suggest to only take a semester. The other ones usually take a year, depending what grade it is. I mean, like kindergarten, 1st and 2nd didn't take a year, or even 3rd grade. But starting in 4th, they should take a year. But this one is supposed to only take a semester. And they have, like, they talk about the world geography. So they talk about, obviously, the geography of it. And then they talk a little bit about the, let's see here, like some of the culture in that area, cultural insights, spotlights on history, concepts to consider, heroes of the mission field, wonders of world geography. So they have Asia, Europe, Africa, Australia, the Pacific, the Antarctic, North America, and South America. That's where it ends. Yep, that's where it ends. I really enjoyed this because it was a nice change of pace. And what I mean by that is they kind of go back and forth. You know, American history. They lean more towards American history. American history, I should say U.S. history. U.S. history, and then world history. They go back and forth. And I really feel like, not that I feel like, I know, because like I said, I read these to my children because they have dyslexia and I want them to understand what's going on. And literally some of my kids were at the same spot in history at the same time, and I actually caught several times that I read the exact same paragraph for this child and this child, like within the same week. And then the one that was older just had a few more sentences added onto that paragraph. And there was even sometimes the exact same picture, which some of the kids caught that. They did the same thing in science. They did the same thing in health. So that kind of frustrated me because it's like I'm teaching this child the exact same thing that I taught them like 4 years ago. And granted, they might have forgot it. But for me, it got really exhausting and repetitive. And another reason why I was like, I need to start branching off to something else. We need to do something else. I just kind of want to pick and choose the really good stuff and leave the repetitiveness behind. So that's why I say this was refreshing. This wasn't really repetitive to anything. Though they've done some geography stuff, they were really just learning the geography of it. Here they learned a lot more of the culture and different things in here. So this was a refreshing book. I rather enjoyed that. Yeah, it says with political and cultural profiles. So I did enjoy that. And then the last one I have is the 12th grade. Well, it's suggested for 12th grade. It is the American government suggested for 12th grade. So I will say that I don't have the 10th grade one, which is World History and Cultures. Again, I was just getting tired of reading these things again, and I was like, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. So we didn't do it. And then 11th grade is U.S. History, Heritage of Freedom, those are both supposed to be all year ones. This one, the American government, is supposed to be one semester, and then the second semester is supposed to be economics for the senior year. So this actually took us a year because we had a family situation come up, so there was a lot more appointments going on. It was a crazy time last year. So this ended up taking us all year instead of only a semester, but that's okay. It worked out. I liked that it gave us the overview. It even gave me some knowledge that I didn't have before about our government, or it kind of just laid it out flat and took away some of the media perspective on it, or just the junk you get added into the government stuff. Sometimes it just kind of stripped it away and said, hey, this is what it was. Like the Nixon stuff that happened. And I'm like, oh, is that what happened? Because all I hear is, this rumor, that rumor. And here you got to find out, okay, what really happened. I guess if I really wanted to investigate Nixon before this, I could have probably. But this was straight up. It gave you more straight up things, not just with Nixon, but the other things that have happened in our history. So I enjoyed that about this book. It did give you an idea of the American government, but it was very wordy. Now, I know it's for 12th graders, so maybe they expect by the time they're in that age that they should be able to handle it. But when I teach my kids, I actually want them to learn it. I don't want them to prove that they're very wordy scholars, which is great if they are. I want them to learn it. I want them to understand it. And since this was one of the first in-depth looks we had at American government, I was frustrated at how wordy it was, because she got kind of frustrated with the words, and I would try to make it as simple as possible. Sometimes tried to back it up and be like, okay, this is what they're trying to say here, but I wished I didn't have to do that. So I do have some other ideas of what I'm going to do. I found some other American government books that I can use for all of my kids. At the same time, there are books out there to teach even the youngest of kids in elementary school about American government if you were wanting to do that. So if you want to teach your children about American government, I suggest you get some of the more simple books first before doing the A Beka suggested for 12th grade book. But these are all good books. So that is my review on all of the A Beka history books that I have. Like I said, I don't have like 2 of them, but the rest of them are there. So I pulled away from them because they're dry, they're repetitive. There's a lot of books. Also, I wanted to give you the tip that with A Beka, we called in the very first years when we were teaching with A Beka, because I was liking A Beka at first, and we felt like we were going to go with that with all the kids. And so we found one time that I had a teacher's book, and then I had a different version of the child's book. So I think it was a math book at the time. So like problem number 5 was actually problem number 7 in the teacher's book. So when I'm correcting her paper, I thought 5 was wrong, but it wasn't wrong. It was just switched around. So my husband called them, and we found out that they revise their books, like just kind of update them every 4 to 5 years. Now I know right now they're going through a huge revision, and I don't remember what grade it is right now because it's not the grades my kids are in. It's the lower grades. So what we did is when we bought the book, we bought like the one, so for example, for this one, we bought obviously the one textbook, and then for all of the quizzes and tests and any consumables, we bought 4 at the same time, so that it would all my kids could have one. It was a good idea in theory. It is a good idea so that you have them all match up. But as we went on with A Beka, I realized that I don't always give quizzes and tests to the kids. So some books I have aren't even touched. So that means I'm going to be selling some books, which I am going to be selling. And I have sold some books already that I've never even touched the workbooks. So that's something you can do. If you get them and you realize you don't use them, you just sell them. People usually are looking for a Beka books, so you're not usually stuck with them. Um, Especially in your lower elementary grades. In high school, people are a little more choosy. They don't always pick that A Beka. But anyway, so just wanted to give you the heads up. If you have multiple children and you're buying a book, you might want to buy for all of your children the consumables that they'll need. Let me make sure I covered everything I wanted to cover with you all. I think that's everything. So I hope that helped you to understand A Beka's history books a little bit better. And you just have to figure out what works for your family. And I hope this helped you. Thank you for watching.